My brother trashed my car and laughed about it. Now he's furious. I won't help him buy a new one. Owning that car was more than just transportation for me. It was proof that I had built something for myself. I worked for it, saved for it, sacrificed for it. Every extra shift I took, every hour of overtime, every unnecessary expense I cut from my life had led to that moment when I finally held the keys in my hand. It was mine. Every inch of it was a testament to my effort, my discipline, my refusal to let circumstances keep me down. And then my brother ruined it. Not just ruined, destroyed. And he laughed. He didn't even ask. That was the worst part. It wasn't like he begged, pleaded, or even tried to convince me. No. He just took the car, like it was his by default, like my hard work didn't matter, like I should have expected him to claim what was mine as his own. I remember the moment I saw it. My car, crumpled on the front end, hood bent like crushed aluminum foil, windshield spiderwebbed with cracks, one of the headlights dangling loose like a dead eye. And my brother? My brother laughed. Not nervously, not out of shame, not even in that awkward, regretful way people do when they know they've messed up and don't know how to fix it. No, he laughed like it was a joke, like it was funny, like my loss was just another forgettable inconvenience in his carefree golden boy life. Damn, dude, he chuckled, shaking his head. You should have seen it. I mean, it wasn't my fault, but still, that was wild. Wild. I stood there, staring at the wreckage of something I had bled for, something I had fought to have, and all he could say was that it was wild. I couldn't even speak at first. I was too stunned, too overwhelmed by the sheer casualness of his reaction. But when the shock wore off, all that was left was cold, unshakable rage. What the hell did you do? I finally managed, my voice lower than I had ever heard it. He shrugged, as if this was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. I mean, I kinda lost control for a second, but whatever, right? Insurance will take care of it. I clenched my fists, trying to keep myself from doing something I'd regret. Insurance? You're not even on my policy. You weren't even supposed to be driving it. Okay, well, calm down, he scoffed, rolling his eyes. It's just a car. It's not like it was a brand new one anyway. Just a car. The words rattled in my skull, echoing like a cruel joke. Of course, he would think that. He had never known what it meant to work for something, to earn something, to pour everything into something just to see it come to life. He had never had to scrape by, to budget every penny, to watch as others got handed opportunities while he had to fight for every single one. No. He had always been handed everything. And now that he had destroyed something of mine, he expected me to shrug it off, the way my parents had always done when he screwed up. But I wasn't them. And this time, I wasn't letting it go. When I told my parents what happened, they reacted exactly as I should have expected. It was just a mistake, my mother said, frowning slightly, as if I was the unreasonable one. He didn't mean to do it, my father added, rubbing his temple like I was the problem. You can always get another one, my mother continued, waving a dismissive hand. You're good with money, aren't you? I felt something in my chest snap. I was good with money because I had to be, I bit out. Because I didn't have anyone paying my way, covering my mistakes, cleaning up after me when I screwed up. My father sighed, exasperated. Look, it's just a car. It's not like anyone got hurt. And there it was again, just a car. As if the car itself was the problem. As if the principle of what happened didn't matter. That's not the point, I said through gritted teeth. The point is that he had no right to take it, no right to drive it, and absolutely no right to laugh about it afterward. My mother pursed her lips. Well, what do you expect him to do now? He can't fix it. Then he should pay for it. That's when my brother, who had been silent up until this point, suddenly laughed again. With what money? He smirked, spreading his arms. Dude, I barely have anything saved up. I can't afford to fix it. Then I guess you'll have to figure it out, I shot back. The smirk faded, replaced by something closer to genuine confusion. Wait, you're serious? Dead serious. My mother sighed dramatically, shaking her head. Oh, come on. You know he doesn't have the money for that. Just let it go. Be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. The phrase almost made me laugh. Because hadn't I always been the bigger person? Hadn't I always been the one who had to take responsibility, who had to clean up after his messes, who had to keep my mouth shut while he got away with everything? Not this time. No, I said, shaking my head. Not this time. If he can't pay for it, then he can work for it. My father frowned. Work for it? What does that mean? It means he gets a job. It means he actually puts in effort for once in his life. It means he learns what it's like to take responsibility. My brother scoffed. Yeah, that's not happening. Then neither is me forgiving this, I snapped back. The air grew thick with tension, my parents exchanging glances, my brother looking more annoyed than anything else. He wasn't used to consequences. He wasn't used to hearing no, and that was exactly why I wasn't backing down. Weeks passed. My brother refused to take responsibility, refused to find a way to make things right. And then, irony struck. He needed a car. He got a new job, one that required him to commute. And suddenly the same person who had laughed about wrecking mine was now desperate for transportation. And who did he turn to? Me. Hey man, he started one evening, leaning against the doorframe of my apartment, acting casual, as if we hadn't fought weeks earlier. So, I was thinking, you've got some money saved up, right? Maybe you could help me get a new car? I blinked at him, stunned by the sheer audacity. You're joking. He frowned. What? It's not like I'm asking for a free car, just a loan or something. A loan? I let out a hollow laugh. You mean like how you borrowed mine and never paid me back? His face twisted. Dude, that was different. No, it wasn't, I said coolly. You want a car? Work for it. Save up. Figure it out. Just like I did. His jaw clenched. So that's how it's gonna be? Yeah, I said, meeting his glare with an unshakable stare. That's exactly how it's gonna be. He had to face reality. Entitlement is a sickness. It festers, rots, and warps reality until the person infected by it truly believes the world owes them something. My brother had been sick with it for years, and my parents had done nothing but feed the disease, enabling it with every excuse, every blind eye, every moment they let him get away with things I never could. And now, when he had finally run out of people to leech from, he had come to me. Not with remorse, not with an apology, but with the expectation that I would fix his problem. The same way I was supposed to have shrugged off my wrecked car. The same way I was supposed to have accepted that my hard work was disposable, while his carelessness was just a mistake. Not this time. After I shut him down, my brother stormed out of my apartment, slamming the door so hard that the walls vibrated. But I knew that wasn't the last I'd hear from him. Entitled people don't just accept being told no. They don't sit with rejection and reflect on how they can improve themselves. They lash out, clawing at whatever scraps of power they still think they have, trying to manipulate, to guilt, to force the outcome they want. And true to form, he wasn't done trying to weasel his way out of accountability. The texts started that night. Brother, come on, man. I wouldn't even be in this situation if you just let it go. I stared at my phone, incredulous. If I'd just let it go? He had wrecked something that took me years to afford. He had laughed about it. And now that he needed something, he was blaming me for standing my ground? I didn't respond. Then came the guilt trip. Brother, you don't even need the money. You're doing fine. Meanwhile, I'm struggling. Is that what you want? To watch me struggle? Ah, there it was. The classic shift from entitlement to victimhood. Because in his mind, he was never wrong. He was never at fault. The problem wasn't that he had been irresponsible and reckless. The problem was that I dared to hold him accountable. Still, I ignored him. Then came the rage. Brother, wow. So this is who you are now? Selfish as hell. You're acting like I'm some random stranger, not your own brother. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, debating whether to respond. I wanted to say a random stranger wouldn't have stolen my car and wrecked it. But I didn't bother. Because I knew the truth. No amount of logic would ever make him see reason. A few days passed. Just enough time for my parents to get involved. I got the call in the middle of the afternoon. My mother's name flashing across the screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. But I already knew she'd just keep calling. I answered. Sweetheart, she started, her voice artificially sweet. Why are you being so difficult? I let out a slow breath, already exhausted. "What do you want, Mom?" "It's about your brother," she said, as if that wasn't already obvious. "He told us you're refusing to help him." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Help him? You mean pay for a car after he totaled mine?" She sighed, like I was the frustrating one. "Accidents happen. He didn't mean to wreck it." There it was. The same tired excuse. "Mom, he stole my car. He wrecked it. And then he laughed about it. He never even apologized." "Oh, honey, that's just how he is," she said dismissively. "He doesn't always think before he speaks." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "No, he doesn't think before he acts either. And that's the problem. Well, what do you expect him to do? He can't afford a new car on his own." I clenched my jaw. "Then maybe he should have thought about that before taking mine without permission." She went silent for a moment, then sighed again. "You're really going to hold a grudge over this?" Grudge. That word almost made me snap. "This isn't a grudge, Mom. This is about responsibility. Something none of you have ever made him take before." She made a small, irritated noise in the back of her throat. "You know, you used to be such a kind-hearted kid." Ah, the manipulation attempt, trying to frame me as the problem, as the one who had changed, when in reality, I was just done being their scapegoat. "I'm still kind," I said calmly, "just not to people who take advantage of me." She huffed. "Your father and I raised you better than this." That made me laugh. "Did you?" Silence. Then she muttered something about how disappointed she was in me before hanging up. Good. Let her be disappointed. I was done living for their approval. For weeks, my brother tried to find another way out of his situation. He bounced from excuse to excuse, always trying to find someone else to take responsibility for his choices. But no one was swooping in to save him. His friends didn't want to lend him money. He couldn't finance a car because his credit was garbage. The job he had gotten, the one that required him to commute, he had to quit because he had no way to get there. And suddenly, the golden boy who had never faced consequences was drowning in them. I watched from a distance, detached, almost fascinated. This was new for him. He had never truly struggled before. He had never known what it was like to hit a dead end with no easy way out. And he still didn't understand why no one was coming to his rescue. Then, one night, my phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen. "Brother." I let it ring. Then came a text. "Brother, I screwed up." I stared at the words, my chest tightening. This was the first time he had ever admitted to being at fault for anything. A part of me, the part that still held on to the idea of him as my brother, wanted to respond, wanted to believe that maybe this was it. Maybe he had finally changed, but then came the next message. "Brother, so, can you help me out? Just a little?" And just like that, whatever moment of hope I had felt vanished. Because it wasn't real. It wasn't growth. It wasn't accountability. It was just another attempt to manipulate me. I didn't reply. He called. I let it go to voicemail. He texted again. "Wow, you really don't give a damn, do you?" I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. No, I did give a damn. I gave a damn about myself. And that was enough. Days passed, then weeks. My brother eventually found a way to scrape together enough money for a used car, a cheap, unreliable clunker that barely ran. And my parents? They were cold toward me now. Distant. The golden child had finally suffered, and they blamed me for letting it happen. But I didn't care. There's a moment in every dysfunctional family where the scapegoat finally stops playing their role. When the person who was always expected to clean up the mess, absorb the blame, and take the fall finally steps back and says, "No more." That moment had come. I had spent my entire life watching my brother get away with everything. He had been reckless, selfish, and entitled, shielded from consequences by parents who bent over backward to make sure his world never cracked. Meanwhile, I had been the responsible one, the one who had to fend for myself, the one who was expected to be understanding every time he screwed up. But now, he had fallen, and I had refused to pick him up. And that was something neither he nor my parents could accept. For weeks, my brother tried to guilt me into helping him. He cycled through every tactic he knew, anger, manipulation, playing the victim. But when it became clear that I wasn't going to budge, he did something I should have seen coming. He went to our parents, and together they decided on a new plan. I got a call from my mother one evening. I had been expecting it, but when I picked up, her tone wasn't pleading this time. It was cold. "Your father and I have been talking," she said, skipping any pleasantries. "And we think it's time you stop being so stubborn." I smirked. "That so?" "This isn't just about your brother anymore," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "This is about family. You've made your point, but at what cost? Do you really want to divide us over something like this?" "Divide us?" I almost laughed at the audacity. "I didn't divide us," I said, voice even. "You did that when you let him get away with everything his entire life. You did that when you dismissed what he did to me, when you told me to just get over it, like my time, my money, my hard work meant nothing." "That's not fair," she snapped. "You know we love you both." I exhaled, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Mom, love without respect is meaningless." She hesitated. "I'm not helping him," I said before she could speak again. "Not now, not ever. And if you can't accept that, that's on you." Silence. Then, finally, "I hope you can live with that choice." And she hung up. Not a single word of understanding, not an ounce of accountability, just another attempt to make me feel like I was the villain for refusing to be their safety net. But this time, I could live with that choice. Because for once, I had chosen myself. After my mother's failed attempt to guilt-trip me, my brother tried one last desperate move. He showed up at my apartment. I had just gotten home from work when I heard the knock. When I opened the door, there he was, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes burning with frustration. "We need to talk," he said. I leaned against the doorframe. "We really don't." His nostrils flared. "Are you serious? You're really just gonna let this go? You're really not gonna help me?" "That's right," I said simply. He scoffed. "You're so full of yourself now, acting like you're better than me just because you got lucky." I stared at him for a moment, then shook my head. "Lucky?" I repeated, my voice dangerously low. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. "I worked for everything I have," I said, slow and deliberate. "Every dollar, every hour, every sacrifice. I did that. And you? You took something I worked for, destroyed it, and laughed about it." His jaw tightened, but I wasn't done. "And now, when you need something, you expect me to just forget all of it? To hand you more of what you never earned?" I shook my head. That's not happening." He let out a harsh breath, looking away for a moment before turning back to me. His voice was lower now, less aggressive. "Look, man, I screwed up, all right? But I didn't mean to wreck your car. I just wasn't thinking." "That's exactly the problem," I shot back. "You never think. You've never had to, because you've always had someone cleaning up after you. But now you get to see what it's like to deal with the consequences of your own choices." He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. "This is the last time we're having this conversation," I said. "I'm done. Figure it out yourself." And before he could say another word, I shut the door in his face. My brother didn't reach out again. Not because he had learned his lesson, but because, for the first time, he had no choice but to deal with the mess he created. And my parents? They made their stance clear. I was selfish. I was cold. I had changed. No, I had grown. I had put myself first, and they couldn't stand it. But I could. And I did. Months passed. Life moved forward. My brother eventually scraped together just enough money for a car. Not the flashy, comfortable ride he had been hoping for, but a beat-up old junker that barely ran. I saw him driving it once. The sight of him behind the wheel of that clunker, frustration written all over his face, should have made me feel vindicated. But I didn't feel anything. Not satisfaction, not regret. Just nothing. Because he wasn't my responsibility anymore. None of them were. For years I had played the role they assigned to me. The reasonable one. The responsible one. The one who would always be there to pick up the pieces. My brother was always the favorite. Now my parents expect me to take care of them instead. I learned young that in my family, love was not unconditional. It was transactional, a currency measured in importance, in who was worthy and who was less than. And in our house, there was never any doubt about who held value. It was Ethan, the golden child, the chosen one, my brother, the one my parents doted on, the one they praised, the one they invested in while I was left with whatever remained. From the moment he was born, he could do no wrong. If he got an A on a test, it was proof of his brilliance. If he failed, the teacher must have been unfair. If he made mistakes, they were excusable. If I made mistakes, they were proof of why I wasn't good enough. Ethan is going to do great things. Ethan is our pride and joy. Ethan deserves the best. And me? You should be more like your brother. Why can't you just listen? Stop being so difficult. It didn't matter how hard I worked. No matter what I accomplished, it was never enough. Straight A's? Expected? Getting into a good college? Not a big deal? Landing a well-paying job? Well, Ethan's doing even better, isn't he? Every achievement I had was treated as less than. Because in their eyes, I was less than him. I should have been bitter. Maybe I was. Maybe a part of me always would be. But mostly, I accepted it. I stopped seeking approval that would never come. I built a life away from them, a life where I was my own person, where I wasn't just Ethan's shadow. And it worked. Until one day my parents called me, and suddenly, the son they had never truly cared about was the one they needed. It was a Tuesday evening when my phone rang. I almost ignored it. My parents weren't exactly the type to check in on me unless they wanted something. But for some reason I answered, "Hey, Mom." A pause. Then, "We need to talk." I frowned. My mother's voice wasn't its usual clipped, impatient tone. There was something else woven into it, something I couldn't quite place. "Okay. About what?" "It's about your father and me. We're not doing so well." I sat up a little straighter. "Not doing well? That was new." "What do you mean?" A deep sigh. "We're struggling. Your father's health isn't what it used to be, and money is tight. We need help." Help. The word settled over me like a suffocating weight, and suddenly I understood. Ethan was gone. The golden son, the one they had worshipped, the one they had given everything to. He wasn't here. "What about Ethan?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Another silence. Then, bitterly, "Your brother isn't answering our calls." I nearly laughed. Of course he wasn't. Ethan had spent years enjoying the life they built for him. They had paid for his education, supported him financially, bailed him out of bad decisions, covered his debts, and never once expected anything in return. So why would he start caring now? "So you're asking me," I said, my voice steady, cold. "We don't have anyone else," she admitted. "We need you." They needed me. The son they ignored. The one who had never been good enough. And now, after all the years of neglect, of making me feel like an afterthought, they wanted me to save them. I could have said no. I should have said no. But instead, I agreed to meet them. I told myself it was curiosity. Some twisted part of me that wanted to see them weak, to watch them grovel, to hear them admit that the son they had abandoned was now their only hope. When I arrived at their house, I almost didn't recognize it. The once pristine home, the place they had always taken such pride in, was now falling apart. The paint was chipped, the lawn was overgrown, the front steps creaked under my weight, and inside, they looked small. My father sat hunched in his chair, his once imposing figure reduced to frailty. My mother stood beside him, wringing her hands, her face lined with stress. This wasn't the powerful, demanding couple I'd grown up with. This was desperation. "Thank you for coming," my mother said softly. I didn't respond. I just sat down, arms crossed. "Tell me exactly what you need." She hesitated, then carefully. "We need financial help. Medical bills. The house. Just enough to get us through. Enough to get them through. Because Ethan wasn't coming back. The son they adored had abandoned them. And now I was supposed to pick up the pieces." I exhaled slowly. "You want my money, you want my help. But tell me something. Why do I owe you anything?" My mother flinched. "We're family." "No," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "We're not. Not in the way that matters. Family is supposed to be about support, about love. And all my life, you made it clear that my only role in this family was to exist in Ethan's shadow." She looked away. I gave up on earning your approval a long time ago, I continued. I built my own life. I survived without you. And now, after all these years, the only reason you're here, asking me for help, is because Ethan left you behind. She didn't deny it, because we both knew it was true. I stood, pulling out my wallet. My mother's face brightened for a second, until I dropped a single $20 bill onto the table. That should be enough for dinner. My voice was flat. It's more than you ever gave me. Her eyes widened. You can't be serious? I am. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. Please, she whispered, voice trembling. We need you. I looked down at her hand, and then, with a quiet, final certainty, I said the words I had waited my entire life to say. You needed me before. You just never cared enough to notice. I pulled free, walked to the door. I didn't expect peace after I walked out of that house. I knew better than that. My parents had spent years molding guilt into a weapon, sharpening it into something that could cut deep enough to control me. They weren't about to let go of that power so easily. So, I wasn't surprised when the call started the next morning. I ignored the first one, then the second. By the third, my voicemail was full. My mother's voice tight with anger. My father's silence in the background just as heavy as his disappointment. I don't know what's gotten into you. You think you're proving something? You'll regret this. Then finally, a new tactic. This isn't about us. This is about your father. He's sick. He doesn't have much time left. A low blow. I clenched my jaw, staring at the phone, feeling something curl in my chest. Something that wasn't quite anger, but wasn't guilt either. I should have cared. I should have felt something. But all I could think about was the years of neglect. The way my father had ignored me, unless he was comparing me to Ethan. The way he had dismissed every accomplishment, every moment I had tried to earn his approval. The way he had chosen Ethan over me, over and over. And now, after all this time, I was supposed to care that he was sick? I exhaled slowly. No, I wasn't falling for it. I had spent my entire life begging for a love they would never give. Now, it was their turn to beg. A week passed, a week of silence from me, and a week of increasing desperation from them. At first it was just phone calls, then texts, then messages from relatives. You need to be there for them. They're old. They need help. Ethan isn't stepping up, so it has to be you. That last one made me laugh. It has to be you. The entitlement, the sheer audacity of it. I had spent years being treated like an afterthought, an obligation, a disappointment. But now that Ethan had abandoned them, I was suddenly important. I knew Ethan had cut them off. I had known for a long time. He wasn't answering their calls, wasn't responding to their messages, wasn't playing the role of the perfect son anymore. And I wanted to know why. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I called him. Ethan answered after 2 rings. Well, well, he said, his voice dripping with amusement. Didn't expect to hear from you. I need answers. Of course you do. I could hear the smirk in his voice, the cocky, easy arrogance he had always carried. The thing our parents had loved about him, the thing they had fed. They're calling me, I said, begging me to help. But you're nowhere to be found. Why? He sighed. I told them years ago, I'm not their safety net, I'm not their retirement plan. And guess what? Neither are you. I clenched my jaw. That's not what this is about. Isn't it? He asked, voice sharp. They used us. Both of us. They just did it differently. I blinked. What are you talking about? A pause. Then, something I had never expected. Ethan hesitated. You really don't know, do you? He said quietly. Know what? Another silence. Then, finally, the truth. They lied to you, Ethan said, his voice flat. About everything. I gripped the phone tighter. Be specific. About me. About why they treated you the way they did. About why I left. I said nothing. He took that as permission to continue. You think I had it easy? Because they paid for my education? Because they gave me everything on a silver platter? A humorless chuckle. They weren't giving me a good life, little brother. They were controlling me. I stiffened. They wanted a puppet, Ethan continued. Not a son. They paid for my school, but they picked my career. They gave me money, but they expected loyalty in return. Every decision I made had to be theirs. Every success I had was really theirs. I wasn't their golden child. I was their investment. I swallowed hard. And you, he continued, you were their backup plan. They pushed you away because they didn't want you to get ideas. They didn't want you thinking you had power. They needed you to feel small so you'd never try to take my place. I felt something sharp settle in my chest. And then I left, he said simply. I cut them off. I told them I wasn't their property. And the second I did, he let out a slow, bitter sigh. You became Plan B. My stomach twisted. Everything, every moment of my childhood, every rejection, every dismissal, hadn't been about me. It had been about control. They had kept me small because they needed someone to own. And now that Ethan was gone, they were coming for me. So, what are you going to do? Ethan asked, his voice calmer now. Are you going to let them use you the way they used me? I closed my eyes, took a slow breath. No, I heard his grin. Good, then stop answering their calls. And I agreed with my brother, because he was right. I had spent years feeling like I had failed them, like I had never been good enough. But the truth was, I had never been supposed to succeed. I had only been meant to serve. And now, that life was over. The next day, my mother called again. I let it ring. Then my father, then my aunt, then my uncle, then every single person they could convince to guilt me back into their grasp. I ignored them all. Until finally, one last voicemail. If you walk away from us now, don't ever expect to be part of this family again. I played it twice, then deleted it, because I wasn't part of their family. Not anymore. I listened to that final voicemail one last time, letting the words settle over me like a familiar weight. If you walk away from us now, don't ever expect to be part of this family again. It was supposed to scare me. It was meant to be a threat, a final warning, a desperate last attempt to control me. But all it did was confirm what I already knew. I had never been part of their family. Not really. Not in the way Ethan had been. Not in the way a child should be. Because love, real love, wasn't supposed to be a transaction. It wasn't supposed to be conditional. It wasn't something that could be given only when convenient and withheld the moment it was no longer useful. They had never truly loved me. They had needed me. And now that I wasn't willing to be used anymore, I was disposable, and that was fine, because I was done needing them too. I didn't answer any more calls after that. I didn't respond to texts. I didn't check the family group chat that had suddenly exploded with opinions about me. People who had never cared about me before, who now had so much to say about my selfishness. Because that's how it always was. The people who had ignored my existence for years now had the loudest voices when it came to judging my decisions. But I let them talk, let them gossip, let them complain, let them whine about how I had turned my back on family. Because I had finally realized something. The only thing I had turned my back on was being their backup plan. And if they wanted to waste their time trying to guilt me back into submission, they could waste it alone. A week passed, then another. I half expected my parents to show up at my door to try and force a conversation I had no interest in having. But they never did. Because they knew, they felt it. This time, I wasn't playing their game, and they had lost. Ethan called me once during that time. You actually did it, huh? He said, his voice somewhere between approval and amusement. Yeah. How does it feel? I exhaled slowly, looking out my window, watching the city move around me, a world I had built on my own. Like I can breathe. Ethan laughed softly. Took you long enough. I smirked. Yeah, well, I guess I'm a slow learner. Maybe. But at least you learned. I didn't say anything after that. Didn't have to. In our lives, we actually understood each other. And for once, I didn't hate my brother. Because he had been just as trapped as I was. He had just escaped sooner. I wish I could say that walking away was easy, that I never looked back, that I never had moments where the old guilt tried to creep in, where the voice in the back of my head whispered, "You should have helped them. You should have been the better person." But I was done being the better person. I had spent my entire childhood trying to be someone they could love. I had spent my entire adulthood trying to earn something that should have been freely given. And now, I was spending the rest of my life for me, not for them, not for Ethan, not for anyone but myself. And it felt damn good. Months passed before I heard about them again. It wasn't from them directly, of course. They had stopped trying. They knew I wasn't coming back. But through other family members, through whispers in passing, I learned the truth. They lost the house. The medical bills piled up. The money dried out. And when they needed someone to blame, there was no one left to turn to, because Ethan was gone. And now, so was I. And my parents finally understood something. They had spent so long treating me like I was nothing. And now, they had nothing at all.